Anybody else jealous of those kids able to reach their feet? When I saw that video, I was like, man, it's been a long time since I could get there that easily. So just to catch you up a little on where we're at, we're in this mental health series. Your mental game, getting back to the basics. A couple weeks ago, Adam talked about our thoughts and the importance of them, and how you just can't get away from your thoughts, and what you feed your thoughts really dictates a lot about how your life goes. And then last week, he talked about courage, and courage being a cardinal virtue. And if you're looking for the podcast, that'll be up later today. I was out elk hunting all week last week, and this was a good reminder. I've been chasing my 16-year-old boy around all week up in the mountains, and I found that maybe you guys have heard of the phrase, train hard, hunt easy. I did the opposite this year. I trained easy, and it made the hunting real hard. So I actually have a lot of vested interest in hearing from these guys on what we can do with our exercise, nutrition, and that. Just also want to be clear that we're not here to replace any other doctors. We're going to be talking at a pretty high level. Every person's unique, every person's situations, and if you're working with a doctor on some things and they're giving you some advice, this isn't meant at all to derail that. One of the books referenced in your mind map is Spark, and in that book, Spark, he talks about how there's, at least when he wrote it, there was 9 symptoms to be determined to be depressed, to be diagnosed to be depressed. And out of those 9, if you have 6 of them, then you could be diagnosed. And one of his points was, well, what if you only have 4 of the symptoms? What are you then? Just miserable? and so, something to think about here is maybe you're not, depressed or deal with extreme anxiety or attention deficit, like really have trouble with that, but maybe there's some things that are just a little bit, maybe just some things that maybe some of what these guys have to share and to offer might help a little bit with that. We're going to talk through some general ideas, but then also, go ahead and bring that next slide up. We have a Slido. If you have your phone, which I don't know if you guys bring your phones to church or not, but if you did, you can go to slido.com, type in 59601, and enter a question, and I got a way to watch for those there. So if you have any questions specifically that you would like answered, we can see if we have time to answer those as well. So first, I'd like to get a little introduction from you guys. We'll start with Travis. We have Travis Myers, who's a licensed counselor, correct, here in Helena. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your background and what you do and what you have done.
Sure. So I'm Travis. Went to school at MSU. Go Bobcats. I got my undergrad in family development, and then got a master's degree in mental health counseling. Worked at the hospital here, Shodair Children's Hospital, for 10 years, working with kids and families with a lot of big issues, trauma, anxiety, depression. And then 2018, since then I've been out on my own and work with kids and families mostly, do some adult work too though. But
yeah, okay, very cool. Well, thank you for being here. And we also have Dr. Brandon Bilyeu. How'd you get here?
So I'm a family medicine doc. I'm a osteopathic physician, so I have DO after my name instead of MD. If you would like me to nerd out on the difference between, probably should do that later. But pretty much in medical school, as a DO, there's a little more emphasis on kind of the whole body, mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical health of people, and then some hands-on manipulation work for different physical ailments as well. But yeah, I have a little family medicine practice that I run by myself here in town, and put a lot of emphasis on wellness and how to avoid seeing me instead of how to keep you coming back.
Yeah, well, and that's a beautiful thing. Yeah, so when we talked a little bit earlier, Travis, we're going to jump right in with sleep. That was something that sounded like in your practice, one of the big things that you found. Tell us a little bit about that.
So when I meet with the kid in a family, one of the first things I usually ask about is their sleep and their patterns and what that looks like. Because sleep is so connected to mental health issues, where lots of kids who have anxiety, I can't sleep at night because my thoughts are racing about this test or this thing or whatever, so I don't sleep good, and then I wake up the next morning and I feel terrible. Same with other things with depression, where maybe I sleep too much, or I can't sleep at all, and I'm just and I feel terrible. And just looking at that mind-body connection, where when your body isn't feeling good, your mind doesn't feel good, and vice versa. So really seeing like what's going on there, and if someone's sleep patterns are pretty healthy, then typically that's a pretty good sign, I think.
Yeah, so you're looking at that more, if I understand right, on the symptom side, like, so they have these things going on, and also how is your sleep? Is that what I understand you saying?
Yeah, and looking at seeing sometimes they're connected, and other times it doesn't have an obvious connection, but sometimes it is, of like, I'm so worried at night when I go to lay down, and my thoughts are like, when I don't have something keeping me busy, go, and I have time to sit with my thoughts, like Adam had talked about, where they're always there, and I'm not distracted, then those worries come, and then I can't sleep because I toss and I turn and I think about all these things that might have gone wrong or could go wrong.
So is that something then that you can, if you're working with a client and they're telling you about this and their sleep is not good, what do you do?
Just tell them to go to sleep.
Well, that works. Go to sleep.
It depends on what's going on, because everyone's so different, kind of like you said earlier, and Brandon and I were talking about the idea of sleep hygiene and like, what do you do to get ready for bed? What happens? What does your bedroom look like? Again, I work with a lot of kids and teens, and the idea of like, well, I have my phone and it's like under my pillow, and just in case the notification goes off. That's not great.
Just in case, you never know.
And like, oh, well, like we look at those patterns and things of like, what is maybe helping you with like getting to sleep and what's getting in the way, as just some like, not looking into deep mental health issues, but like what's just like physically in the way of you getting to bed at night. And are you drinking lots of caffeine at night? Are you staying up super late on your phone? Are you doing some other things that we talked about, like sleep and as exercise? Are you getting enough exercise during the day? Or are you just like, I lay around all day and I don't move?
Yeah.
So talking about lots of different things that like could be getting in the way that you don't need to see a doctor or a therapist for. It's just like, oh, these are things that you could be doing differently.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like it could be kind of a chicken and egg thing too, right? Like not getting enough sleep then makes it harder to sleep because your thoughts are racing. And yeah. How about you, Brandon? What thoughts do you have on sleep and mental health?
Yeah, I think sleep's a tough one because it can be involved in everything. Mental health a big one, but as well as focus and memory and mood and pain, and whether your spouse is mad at you or not, I feel like sleep can soothe numerous issues, but it's really hard to actually fix it. And so, I think that the main kind of a few broad things with sleep would be, trying to look at what does a bedtime routine look like, and can it be somewhat regular? There are some people who, on Tuesdays I work the night shift, and then on Thursdays I work during the day, and then Fridays it depends what they need. And so there are people who are in situations where it's just kind of do what you can with what you got, but trying to get around 7.5 to 9 hours of sleep for most people. Trying to have that between 10 p.m., 6 a.m., somewhere in that time frame. And then, trying to decrease the stimulation as you're winding down for bed. So I usually talk with people about melatonin. Most people know the sleep aid melatonin, but it's a naturally occurring hormone in your body that as you get ready for sleep and as your body kind of naturally starts to wind down, that melatonin naturally comes up as one of your main stress hormones, cortisol, comes down. And as you get more of that kind of sleep hygiene, that routine where you're winding down for the day and not looking at screens, not trying to do a whole bunch of work before bed, but letting your brain wind down with reading, listening to music, watching the sunset, things like that, you get that natural sleep aid of melatonin come up and the stress hormone come down. And there's so many things that you can do. It takes time to build those habits, but it can really make a difference. And not turning sleep into a battle. Yeah,
instead of going, to taking something to put you to sleep and getting up early, getting more caffeine and running on it, right? Yeah. That's interesting what you said about melatonin. I don't know that I've really thought about that much. I've heard of melatonin as you can buy it at the real food store or wherever. But I guess I hadn't really thought about how your body produces it. in conjunction with all of that. So it seems that there's a lot of stuff that exercise does with that too, as far as producing hormones or different things in your body. Brandon, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Pertaining to sleep or just in
with
general?
with exercise. Let's switch over to exercise a little bit and what exercise can do in the body.
Yeah, so I think specifically pertaining to like mental health, there's been a lot of research and studies into specifically like aerobic type of exercise with more of the longer time, longer distance type of stuff that can really help specifically change your brain anatomy. Like you can kind of strengthen the growth of some neurons in your brain, and they've done a lot of head-to-head comparisons with some of the more commonly used antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications, and some pretty simple aerobic exercise will oftentimes do just as good when it comes to measuring people's symptoms as a lot of the prescription medications. Mm-hmm. Plus, you get added benefits of improved cardiovascular health, and you get the benefits of increasing strength and stability and balance, and you don't have to worry about all of the, rolling an ankle is a potential side effect, but there's a lot of side effects that come with a lot of pharmaceuticals as well, and so I feel like you can get a few more birds with one stone, really trying to use exercise as a tool. And it can be tough. Another thing that, especially if you are really struggling with depression, lack of motivation is a big one. And so it's like, I know that I should be on the bike or on the treadmill or running or hiking, but just getting outside and towards that is hard to do. And so a lot of times it's kind of getting yourself to do it, not because you enjoy it, but just because I know that I should do this. Mm-hmm. And so kind of getting into the behavioral therapy, I'm going to do it because I know that it's good for me, and I know in my head that I'm supposed to enjoy this.
Enjoy might be a strong word. I don't know.
Yeah.
So Travis, you alluded earlier to exercise as it plays into sleep. How do you introduce exercise to your clients?
I saw this study once. It was funny. It's like, can you only sit for 23 and a half hours a day?
You can try.
And this idea of like getting out for even just 30 minutes, can you have 30 minutes of like where I'm doing something and moving? And it feels so connected. And like Brandon said, like when you exercise, it helps with so many different things. But it's about discipline, and it's really hard. All of these things, it's really hard to like set a good bedtime and go to bed when you need to. It's hard to like, I need to get out on my bike or on the trail or whatever and go do that. It's much easier to sit and watch TV or scroll on your phone or whatever. It's hard to like I'm going to go out and I'm going to go move. But when you do that, I think it just builds on itself, and it gets easier and easier, and you set routine and pattern. Yeah. And when you do get out and exercise and move, it naturally tires your body out, which then makes it much simpler to like get to bed when you're supposed to. And I do talk to kids and families about that a lot. Of if you don't do anything all day and you sit all day, it's really hard to then go to bed on time. But if you get into routine of like, I go do something, I go be active, your body wears itself out a little bit, and then it gets easier and easier the more you are disciplined about it.
Yeah, so if somebody's looking to start a program or get disciplined about something, in your guys' experience, and I get that everybody's different, but when's a good time to exercise?
Whenever you can.
Yes. That's good answer. Whenever it works, huh?
Yeah, I feel like, again, it's for so many people just trying to find the time in the day to do it. And there are some people who love the structure of, I have from 6:37 until 7:42, and that is my exercise time, and that's how their brain works, and that's what they like. And then there's other people who you give them that little window, and just that thought drives them nuts, and they're much more of when I have a 30-minute gap, that's when I'm gonna take my exercise time anywhere in my waking hours. And so just trying to have something that works for you, but yeah, trying to be intentional about having whether it's small goals to attain or a very structured spreadsheet, having something that you can actually be disciplined and carry forward and actually start to get a habit built. But
what I hear you saying there is maybe don't base it on what other people do. Like, don't give up. I know that there's been things that I've tried where it's like try and do something that somebody else does and it just didn't work for me and I kind of gave up. But maybe it's a don't give up, try something else. If that didn't work, try something else. Just keep pushing on that.
It makes me think about like last Lent, and Adam was talking about like prayer and the rosary of like when we try and be like super organic and just like I'm going to be spontaneously pray and I'm spontaneously going to do these things. Sometimes that works really well, but I think for a lot of us, like when we have like structure routine of like, oh, I know this is how I'm supposed to do it, this is what I'm supposed to do, it becomes easier. And I think with exercise, it's similar. Like if I'm like, I'm going to take a walk sometime today. Oh shoot, it's already getting late, I can't do that. But if I have it built into my routine of like, okay, I know at this time I need to carve out 30 minutes to go for a walk or whatever, and I'm going to do that, I think it's better than just like, well, I'll do it sometime today.
Yeah.
Because if it's not priority, it's not priority.
Yeah, putting it in a spot and saying this is when it's going to happen, and move it if you need to, but to something intentional.
I was just going to say, and exercise looks different for different people. I think sometimes the first thought that pops into people's head is, all right, bench press, powerlifting, right? That's, you don't
that's
have to,
us.
You don't have to touch, obviously.
Which way to the gym?
That's right. Yeah, but sometimes the gym, especially if it's like an issue, it's like, well, I'm doing this to try to manage my anxiety, and when I go into the gym, my anxiety goes through the roof. It's like, all right, let's not go to the gym just yet. And so it can be as simple as, like, I'm gonna let the dog take me for a walk and do that on a regular basis, or it's and I have a very short drive to work. Well, I can try walking to work when the weather's nice. And so I think exercise looks very different to different people. And again, trying not to kind of do the compare of, like my older brother Nathan he's an intense individual, and he's like, the mountain biking and jiu-jitsu, and I get up every morning at 5:30 and I hit the gym and he's showing me these workouts, and I'm just like, I could watch you do those. And so it's like that's very, very different than like, all right, I'm going to do some body squats on a little shaky platform, and that'll be my great workout. Like it very different, looks very different for different people, and depends what your goals are.
Yeah, well, thank you. So let's talk a little bit about nutrition. Because all these seem to fall under, kind of similar idea, like you were talking about the disciplines. I can speak a little bit about myself this last week, being out hunting with Dylan for a week. We got one of them big 5-pound bags of candy, and I kept thinking I'll throw a few into my bag for snacks during the day. We went through the whole bag during the week. I think he ate most of it, but I was not disciplined in my eating habits this week, and I noticed it. But if you were, how does nutrition fall into your practice?
One of the things I say to kids and families when they come in is like, there's 3 things I always ask about, and it's the 3 things we're talking about today. How's your sleep? How's your nutrition? And how is your activity level? These are 3 things that you can control and do something about that don't have to go to a doctor. You don't have to go see a therapist. You don't have to see a specialist to do these things. Sometimes you need to see a nutritionist, if you have really special needs and things, but other times it's just when I eat junk, I don't feel good. If I'm living on chicken nuggets and ramen, I'm probably not getting the nutrition my body needs. I'm not saying you need to have this huge variety of foods and fruits and vegetables. I think that probably helps, but being aware of this, I'm like, oh, what am I putting into my body? Sometimes I have kids who aren't eating enough, and they're like, I'm hungry, but I don't eat, and then I get cranky and I'm frustrated. Sometimes it has to do with medications they're on, because there's side effects from those, and they just don't eat, and then they don't grow, and then that produces all kinds of other problems. So just a lot of it's awareness of what am I putting into my body?
Do you use any journaling type things in your practice? Having people write down what they eat and keep track of things like that?
I don't do a lot with nutrition like that. I have had some kids who really did well with journaling feelings, emotions, thoughts, and things. I have had one kid who was really struggling to eat, and so we did for like a month keep track of okay, write down what you eat, and we can talk a little bit about it. But that's definitely out of my expertise level for sure.
Okay. Yeah, very good. How about you? How does nutrition fall into your practice?
Yeah, I think it's a huge part of overall health, whether it can be very simple process of, it's not trying to jump all the way to, you have to purchase all of the organic stuff and we're going to go full-blown keto. I mean, there are a lot of extreme directions you can go in. But yeah, sometimes it's just as simple as, what's one thing that you either eat or drink that you think probably isn't great for you that you could decrease or cut out, and then just starting with that.
Start with one,
and then start chipping away. Like the big one for me is always like juice and soda, I think are oftentimes sneaky and doing a lot more harm than people realize. And
what do you mean by juice?
Sugar water. So yeah, just a lot of, I mean, if you're squeezing your own oranges, that's a little bit different situation than if you're buying some Minute Maid orange juice. What's that?
Sunny D.
Sunny D. Yep. Just because, just the amount of usually sugar that's in it, or other artificial flavoring, or other preservatives, and they take out all the good stuff. Usually, like the pulp, the fiber, a lot of this other stuff that's good for you gets taken out, and so you're kind of stuck with a little sugar rush, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But I think that again, kind of, especially when it comes to mental health, nutrition makes a really big difference just in how your mood overall does. And I think that there are some, you can get quite a bit of benefit if you get real strict with different diets, but it's amazing how big of a difference just some small changes. I had one guy who all he did was go from about, I think it was like 16 or 18 cans of Mountain Dew, and he didn't completely cut it out, but dropped down to like 4. And all of a sudden, he was less irritable. His mental clarity got way better. His memory got way better. He was sleeping way better. He lost like 20 pounds. Blood pressure came down. And
just by cutting out the Mountain Dew. Cutting down.
Just dropping down on the Mountain Dew a little bit. And it was all of these things. And it was, I loved it because I just got to be his cheerleader. Like I just got to sit there and cheer him on. And you get to do all these things. And it's cool to see how many different avenues, along with the mental health, that nutrition can benefit.
Yeah, it sounds like it covers a lot of it. So we do have a handful of questions that came in. We have a few minutes left here. So one of them here is, can you speak to the state of a person's surroundings and physical hygiene and how it affects sleep? You talked a little bit about that, but maybe is there any more you would want to add to that? Some ideas that people could have? Either one of you.
One of the things that I've read about and looked at is keeping the bedroom for just sleep. Like if we're talking about like physical surroundings of like, you don't use your bedroom as your office. You don't use your bedroom for your game room. You don't use your bedroom for other things. You go there to sleep. And so that if it's set up like that, then it's like your body is in this mind, and your mind frame is like, oh, this is where I go to sleep, not where I go to like watch shows or where I go to do other things. It's like, it's a place where I go and I can just be ready to rest. So it puts you in a mind frame of, this is what it's for.
Yeah, and I would imagine that kicks into the melatonin thing like you were talking about, and allows the body to naturally do that. So keeping it just for sleep, eliminating the TV maybe and the screens, the other things that are in there. Any other ideas?
I think one thing that can be a struggle is, like, depending on what people use, is clocks. Like, clocks can be a blessing and a curse. And so yeah, having like that super bright digital clock that you turn off the lights and it's just this. Those things can be pretty rough, and so sometimes how can you have that? And I'm guilty a lot of times waking up and being, what time is it? I gotta make sure I'm not late. I gotta make sure I'm not doing what I need to do. And so having the ability to make sure that you can easily find the time, have a little clock, little watch, something that doesn't have a super bright light that you can get access to if you need it. But that's one that I think can go unnoticed and underappreciated.
Yeah, that's good. So here's another question. What is the best way to support a friend when they're actively struggling with an anxiety attack, feeling overwhelmed, that type of thing? How could somebody help a friend or a family member that's struggling?
I'd say one of the biggest things that I see people do that isn't helpful is try and fix the problem. Well, what's wrong? Can I fix? What are you doing? What's going on? What's wrong? Yeah. Instead of just sitting and being with them and like, I'm here, I'm with you. I don't maybe fully understand, but I'm trying to be with you. If we're talking in the middle of a panic attack, I think it's like, I'm going to breathe with you, and I'm going to like show you like I'm being calm. I'm not going to like rise to your level, but I'm going to stay calm and breathe, and that I'm going to be with you, and hope that you come down to my level. But I think the biggest thing I see being really helpful in this is empathy, of like, I'm trying to understand what it's like for you. Not like I feel bad for you, but I'm trying to understand what it's like for you, and I'm not trying to fix your problem.
Right, not trying to fix you, but be with them, be present, and hear what they have going on. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and only other thing I'd really add is to don't be too surprised if that person kind of lashes out at you a little bit. Obviously, if it's like a panic situation, their whole body is in that fight, flight, freeze kind of state. Adrenaline's pumping, they're fired up, and so if they do take shots at you or yell at you or don't, it's not personal. They're not necessarily in a logically thinking, processing state, and so again, trying to remain calm, breathe slow, even if they do start yelling at you and telling you that you need to do something right now, otherwise, something terrible is going to happen. So trying to maintain that calmness and allowing them to, try to get through what they're getting through.
Yeah, it sounds like don't rise to their level of anxiety or whatever they have going on, but stay calm, stay with them, stay present. One more question here. I can fall asleep at night, but wake up in the middle of the night and can't go back to sleep. Do you have any ideas? You're nodding.
Yeah, so a big one that I usually talk about is, trying not to, again, kind of the thought of trying to keep your bedroom, kind of focused on the sleep environment. If you just lay there awake for hours, your brain kind of associates, this is where I lay and think, not sleep. And so...
yeah, it makes sense then.
Mm-hmm.
Brain just does what it's programmed to do.
Yeah, this is where we just freak out about the next day. And so, trying to...
So here in a few weeks, we have a neuroplasticity week. We'll be learning more about the brain part on that, so that'll be good.
So I'll usually tell people, if it's been 20 minutes, 30 minutes tops, don't keep laying in bed, get out of bed, and then go sit in another chair. So usually if you can get out of the bedroom, go sit in a chair with not super bright lighting, not super stimulating environment, but listen to music, read a book, do some easy stretching, try not to snack, easier said than done, but try to kind of, all right, we're gonna reapproach this sleep thing. We're gonna go out, do something else, and then usually people can find something that has some sort of a end to it. I'm gonna read this little magazine article, or there's a section of the book that I'm going to read, and it kind of comes to a close, and so you're not reading something that has a cliffhanger, and then you're trying to go to bed right after that. And then trying it again to go back to sleep, instead of that fight of, I'm going to lay here until I fall asleep again, because that's a tough battle to win.
Just go to sleep, like you said earlier. Yeah. Well, thank you both for being here. Really appreciate all the insight here, and hopefully it was helpful for some people. So the band can come back up. I'm going to pray, and the ushers can also get ready for communion. Heavenly Father, thank you for Dr. Brandon and Travis and their willingness to come up here and share their ideas on exercise, nutrition, and sleep. And I just ask you'll be with the people that heard the message, and the people that they're around. Just help them to be a light for you. We know that there's a lot of this that we do have control over. Like they said, it's not easy. It takes discipline. Takes effort and work to get the things in the schedules. I just pray that you'll help people to see the opportunities for that, to help with their mental and spiritual health as their week goes on. I thank you again for both these gentlemen. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like to learn more about Narrate Church, find us online at narratechurch.org or look us up on Facebook or Instagram.